All right, Jennifer, we are live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. I'm so happy to see you today. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation and being our guest speaker today.
Of course, I'm
And
honored.
good evening. Great,
Good
thank you.
evening, good morning.
Yes, good evening, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our live session dedicated to Women's History Month. And today we are going to talk about female empowerment and leadership. And we invited a special guest today from the United States, Jennifer Lynn Larsen. So she is the U.S. Archery Traditional Committee member. So yes, today it's going to be a very exciting topic to be talk about it. And so, dear friends, don't forget to send your questions during the live. So all questions and comments are welcome. So you can type them in the under this video, and after the presentation, Jennifer will answer them. So thank you very much, everyone. And now I would like to give a virtual flow to Jennifer.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's such an honor to have relationships with such amazing countries all over the world. This is one of the best parts of being a historical archer and getting to compete internationally is all of the beautiful connections that are made between people, no matter where you come from, how old you are, what you study in life. Archery has this beautiful way of bringing people together and unifying them, and that has been one of the most precious lessons that I've learned from my time as a historical archer and a traditional archer. So again, my name is Jennifer Lynn Larsen. I'm 33 years old and I live in Houston, Texas in the United States of America. I have been studying traditional archery since 2017, and I am the co-founder, co-leader of a traditional archery group here called the Eastern Contingent, which is a member of both the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas and USA Archery, which are the national governing bodies for both equine horseback archery and ground archery here in the United States. I'm the secretary for the Eastern Contingent, the Mounted Archery Association of the Americas, and also for the International Horseback Archery Alliance, which is the world governing body for horseback archery. So archery for me started in 2017 when I met my partner now, Rob Morton, who is the founder of the Flying Hun Archery and Leather. He's been on YouTube with channels such as the Modern Rogues. You might have seen a video about being a Mongolian warrior on their website. He has a shop front location at two different Renaissance festivals here in Texas. And I attended the festival in 2017 with some of my friends and found an archery shop and was introduced to him over the course of the season because that fair has a 8-week-long archery competition only for traditional archers. So you're required to dress in traditional garb, shoot traditional bows, either wood or horn bows, things of traditional materials. And over the course of the 8 weeks, they judge your archery each weekend. And the winner at the end of the weekend becomes a part of the company of archers from that fair. So Rob was one of the founders of that competition and was one of the most prominent members of the archery community there. So his shop has a very beautiful storefront and presence. And it was the first time that I had heard of Asiatic archery. I knew of the longbow, but I didn't know much about horseback archery or the true historical side of archery. So this was a really great start for me, getting to see how arrows are made and how bows are shot and taking archery lessons from Rob and getting my start that way. We became close very quickly and ended up becoming partners and hosting nonprofit archery events that benefited our community and veteran services, which is a very close to my heart subject. My father is a veteran of our military here in the United States, and so supporting veterans is very important for me. So Rob and I came together and partnered for a nonprofit tournament that benefits our local nonprofit association, and that's kind of how we got started, and we've been together ever since. So shortly after we became partners and he started training me in the ways of historical archery, we were invited to be a part of the first United States archery team to go to Kyrgyzstan for the World Nomad Games, which to me seemed like a dream come true because I had never been outside of the United States until that moment. So my understanding of the international community was very limited. And this opportunity to travel was such an enlightening experience. I received my passport for this trip. I met people from outside of the United States for the first time. And it was just such a beautiful experience. Kyrgyzstan is such a lovely country, and it has so much history, as you all know. So getting to see, not only read in a textbook about the history of the world, but get to go to the place where Genghis Khan once walked and to understand the local culture was such a beautiful experience for me. So you see here, this is the first U.S. archery team, a group of some of the most competitive horseback archers in the United States, and then Rob and myself representing the historical archery population of our country. So you can see there's a very interesting dichotomy in the way that we dressed for the competition. We partnered with the American Embassy in Bishkek, and we're told that, people expect Americans to come dressed like cowboys and to, wear jeans and cowboy boots, and that would be what people would recognize us for if we came. But because the tradition of the cultures that Rob and I study are so important to us, we asked our team captain, Hadley Hudson, who's on the far right in the plaid shirt. We asked him if it would be all right if we dressed in historical garb instead to honor the cultures that we would be seeing at the World Nomad Games, because that's such an important part of our practice. And he gave us permission, so we came dressed in historical garb. Actually, the quiver that you see in this picture here was hand created by Rob, my partner. He hand carved, hand cut, dyed everything about this quiver to historical speculations based on pictures of quivers from museums all over the world. So it was as close to living history as we could get at the time. So we came to Kyrgyzstan with our team, and you can see the gentleman on the farthest right gentleman, Alex Mardikian, is actually a part of the local Kyrgyz culture. He is married to the daughter of one of the communities outside of Bishkek, which was outside of Chopinata, which was beautiful for us. So we had a kind of an inside view on what the local culture was like. We would go out into the village and eat dinner with local people and talk with them and learn about their lives rather than just staying in the archery compound. So through the course of the 2-week World Nomad Games experience, we were able to meet people from all over the world. Here you see 2 of the archers from Iran, who we became friends with, and obviously one of the amazing archers from Kyrgyzstan as well. I believe she won second place in the women's horseback archery, and was just amazing to see shooting, and just such a kind human. So getting to spend the 2 weeks in the valley learning about all of these people and becoming friends with people that we would have no opportunity to meet with in real life. I mean, Iran and the United States have a very tense relationship most of the time. So there would never have been an opportunity for us to travel to Iran or for Iranians to travel to us. So this was just such a unique opportunity to bring people together. You see here archers from, I think, 30 different cultures, all represented here, and all smiling, all enjoying each other, all just having an amazing time sharing stories and learning about each other and enjoying the experience of being in Kyrgyzstan. So I actually had the honor of making it into the finals for the women's Korean archery, which is the 135-meter shot. You can see the target just behind the woman in green on the far right-hand side of the picture. If you look behind her, there's a very large white target, and that is about 6 feet tall, and you shoot it from 135 meters. And I was one of 5 women who made it into the finals for that event, along with one of your Kyrgyz country women, and a woman who has become very close to my heart, Nazima Saleh, who is one of the champion archers from Singapore. She and I have remained friends over the last few years, and she's actually traveled to the United States to compete here in a competition that we hosted because of our experience at the Nomad Games. Here you have a picture of myself with Janset Genel, who is the daughter of one of the most well-renowned archers in the country of Turkey. She and her father travel all over the world for competitions. She's actually quite young. She's still a teenager, but she took, I believe, first place in the women's horseback archery event at this competition. And this was amazing to me to see somebody so young who was so poised and calm, but very successful in her practice of horseback archery. She looks like she's been riding her whole life and makes it look so easy, which was very inspiring for me. At this point, I had begun taking lessons in horseback archery, but I had not yet become competitive or really become proficient in the sport. So for me, this was very inspiring to see. So the experience of being at the Nomad Games was very inspiring to us. And it became important very quickly for us to come home and to evangelize the experience. Americans are pretty well known for being somewhat uninclusive and being very self-focused in our practice, especially in the archery world. Not many people from our country travel overseas for competition and have interactions with people around the world. So it was such a unique and special environment for us that Rob and I sat down after the event, and we decided that we wanted to bring the spirit of this event to the United States if possible. We wanted to start cultivating an international culture and start trying to appeal to archers from around the world to come to our country so that people here at home would be able to see how wonderful it is to be part of an amazing international community and to see how beautiful other cultures in their archery can be rather than just what we know here at home. So together we started the Texas International Archery Festival, which was held for the first time in April of 2019. So only about 6 months after we came to Kyrgyzstan for the Nomad Games. This competition we held at the same Renaissance Festival that Rob and I met at on their festival grounds, and held not only horseback archery, but ground archery. We had vendors of traditional folk goods. We had historical musicians and traditional musicians. And then we had archers from over 13 countries that came to the United States. As far as I know, this is the largest representation of countries outside of the United States that have come to the US for ground and horseback archery competition ever. Not the largest amount of people, but the most diverse offering of countries. We had countries like the USA, Germany, we had Japan, Poland, China, Malaysia, Canada, Hungary. And then we were hoping to have Sadep from Kyrgyzstan, but at the last minute, she wasn't able to come because she was competing in another event that was closer to home, which was amazing. And I think she actually ended up doing quite well. So this event was very unique for us here in Texas. Texas horseback archery is used to being very modern, very sport oriented. People shoot carbon fiber arrows and modern bows, and they, wear cowboy boots and baseball caps when they compete. So seeing for the first time on the field of competition people dressed in historical garb from all over the world was quite unique. And people here were very taken with it, which was very pleasing for us. They started to ask questions and to trade information with people from other countries. And we gave historical demos of different cultures' archery to try and introduce people to the history of the world and of other people and how they look at archery from their unique corners. You see here, these are two of the archers who came to us from Japan, Jun Takatani and Takashi. They're here shooting the traditional style of Yabusame, which is such a beautiful and elegant art. You have here the current world champion of horseback archery in the International Horseback Archery Alliance. This is Wojtek Osiecki, who comes from Poland. He is one of the board members of the International Archery Association with me, so I get to see him on a regular basis now, which is wonderful. So for me, this journey of archery it's one of community and connectivity. Over the last 3 years since we hosted our festival, I've been able to travel to countries like Austria, like Hungary, like Turkey for competitions, and to meet with local boyars and archers from other cultures, and the ability to study with people who have lived this history and have more resources than we do is beautiful. The historical resources here in the United States were somewhat limited when Rob started his archery journey. And now, because of the internet, because of things like Zoom and conference calls like this and international competitions where we can travel back and forth, we're able to learn so much more about the history of where we come from and learn from the gaps that we don't have here in the United States. And with our dearest friends here on the left, you have Gilbert Gomez and Rebecca Stacy. They traveled with us to Turkey for the Conquest Cup, which was a competition held in Turkey every year at Okçalar Vakfi, which is the oldest existing archery club in the world. It was founded in the 1450s. And they had the largest community of international archers that I had seen outside of the World Nomad Games. But so many people that we met at the Nomad Games came to us here in Turkey as well, and have come to our competition and back and forth. So we went from being Americans with a very small view of the world to being part of this amazing international community of people that talk to each other all the time and share resources and learn from each other and genuinely love each other and love the sport. And here in the United States, in the last few years since we've traveled, our study of historical Asiatic archery has grown. We went from being the only maybe 2 or 3 people in the country who would compete in USA archery events with Asiatic bows to now seeing the competition field growing with 15, 20 different archers, and it grows exponentially every year. So this movement is taking root here, and people are starting to become inspired by it and become open to it, which is more than we ever could have asked, and has been just a wonderful thing to be a part of. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Jennifer, thank you very much.
Oh, you're so
Thank you very
welcome.
much for this amazing presentation. I see how it's a unique sport and so many wonderful sport girls, sport men involved there. So are there any kind of levels in archery?
As far as like becoming a student and then becoming more advanced? Yes, specifically within USA Archery and the International Horseback Archery Alliance, there are ways of what we call grading. So in horseback archery, you start as a beginner. You have to learn to walk before you can run, is what we say. So they have a walk trot division for people who are just trying to understand how to ride a horse and how to have a connection with it. So you can compete in competitions all over the country in the walk trot division, where you're walking down an archery course and shooting very slowly so that you can work on your form. And then as you progress through that, then you become a student archer, where you compete in the canter division. So you're running on the horse, but you're shooting at the student level, which means you pay no attention to the time it takes to run a course, only to your target proficiency. So how well can you shoot your bow? How accurate can you be? So there are 6 levels of student archery that are quantified through 2 courses that exist all over the world. They're called the Tower 90, which is a rain of arrows course, where you're meant to shoot as many arrows as you can through the course of 90 meters. And then there's the raid discipline, which comes from a historical Korean background, where you have 1 arrow per target in a short period of time. So it's meant to be very accurate and very precise, as opposed to very quick. So through those 2 courses, everybody in the world is able to compare themselves and compare their scores and their times together. So in the student divisions, you don't pay attention to the time, just to the amount of points you score on the target for each run of the competition. And then once you've progressed through the 6 levels of becoming a student archer, or once you just surpass them, you don't have to earn them sequentially. Once you've passed those levels, you become a horse archer, is what we call it. And there are currently 8 levels of horseback archery. We've actually just had the international bar raised this last year. We've had some new world records set. Mihai Cosme, who comes to us from Romania, who's one of the most amazing people I've ever met, is constantly innovating horseback archery and coming up with new designs for quivers that help him to shoot quickly. He's just taken the highest ranking in the world, which is very exciting.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Is it a shield behind you?
Yes. So this is a kalkan. This is a traditional Ottoman shield. An archer or a soldier would have used for both horseback and ground archery work. You can actually wear it on your arm so that you can shoot your bow while you hold your shield to protect yourself. Our friends from Turkey, Mamluk Archery, made this shield for me.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And do you train the horses?
I do not yet. So I'm very new to horsework myself. I've only been studying since 2017. So one of the members of our club, the Eastern Contingent, Kent Battenfield, his family has been in the United States for generations training horses. They've traveled all through the bottom part of the United States in a migratory capacity, training horses for people selling and buying horses. And so he's been training myself and Rob in horseback archery for about 3 years now.
Mm,
He's an amazing person to learn from because he takes very seriously the relationship between a person and the horse and teaches us how to communicate with the horse, how to understand their needs and what they're asking for, and get them to very kindly do the work that we want them to do and to create very solid partnerships.
cool. Thank you very much, Jennifer. So now let me read the questions from our audience.
Wonderful.
The first one. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for the great session. So my question is, who's your inspiring and favorite sport woman?
Ooh, sport woman, specifically archery or any sport?
The person didn't specify it here.
Okay, let's see. I would say for horseback archery, it would be Janset Genel from Turkey because she's so young and yet so disciplined. And when you meet her, I was surprised to hear how young she is because she has a very old soul in a good way. She's very calm and very confident, but very humble and just
Mhm.
beautiful to see. There are certain people who are archers that are so natural at it that it looks like a dance. It's very smooth and very fluid, and she has that ability. So seeing her ride and shoot and be able to ride on a horse that she had never met before and still compete that well and to get first place at the Nomad Games was an amazing inspiration for me. And it made me go home and immediately pick up horsework and start to learn that.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. The next question. Do your family involved in sport?
Yes. So the most exciting thing that has happened since we started studying archery together is that my father and my stepmother have both picked up traditional archery as well. So we've actually we've recruited my father. He's now studying Turkish archery as well, whereas the historical garb has gone to national competitions with us. And we hope soon as COVID-19 goes away and the pandemic restrictions go away, he hopes to begin learning horsework as well. So archery is very much a family experience for us and for our horse trainer, Kent, as well. So not only Kent competes, but his wife as well. His oldest son and 2 of his 5 children all compete in horse archery. So at one competition, we've had 9 batten fields on a competition roster. We make a joke here that if you're not yet a Battenfield, you will be by the end of it because there's so many of them and there's such a warm and welcoming family. So archery is very, very much a family sport here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. The next question. Why did you choose archery?
So I actually asked myself this question recently, and I had a memory that when I was a child, I didn't often get to go out and do things. I'm from a military family, so we moved very often. So most of my childhood experience was moving and reading books, and that was about it. But one year, I was able to go to a summer camp for 1 week. And during the summer camp, you were able to pick 3 classes that you wanted to take and experience over the week. And I took swimming, I took archery, and I took horseback riding. So from the age of 7, I was already focused on both archery and horses, and I just never knew you could put them together. So I've always been fascinated by archery. I mean, some of my favorite books growing up were fantasy fiction books where like the Lord of the Rings, where you have such powerful, strong, elegant characters like the elves, and their archery was always just so beautiful to me. And the key to archery for me, and this is something that my partner talks about a lot, is that archery is a very zen sport. It's meant to be very calming. The process of it being so repetitive is meant to get you very much in touch with who you are and to find balance in a world that's very chaotic and aggressive a lot of times. So when the world is stressful and when things in life are crazy, to go out on the archery field and to pick up my bow and just tune the rest of the world out and just practice the form and shoot is such a calming, cathartic experience. So it's just so zen and centering for me that I think it will always be a part of my life.
Mhm. So interesting, Jennifer. So it was in the curriculum of the school, yes, that you
Mm-hmm.
had an opportunity to take and try
Yes.
it. Oh, so interesting. Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for sharing this. And the next question, uh, what was the most challenging during the World Nomad Games?
The most challenging. Well, not for myself personally so much as for my team. Being in a country that we had never come to before and having no opportunity to meet the horses that would be competed on until the day of the competition was very difficult for some of the members of our team. It's actually the only competition I've ever been to where competitors were not given one horse for the entire competition, but they were required to change horses in between competition runs. So normally you meet a horse the day before the event and you ride it consistently over maybe 3 days or 2 days, however long the event is. But it's the same horse, so you begin to build a relationship. But in Kyrgyzstan, they were challenged to start fresh every single run on a new horse and to be very resilient and to be able to pivot. And I think that is a unique ability, and it's something that has stuck in my mind ever since. I don't wish to just find one horse that I will ride forever. I want to have experience riding many horses so that I can learn what the differences are and how to speak, the entire horse language, not just one dialect. So that's the challenge that is still a challenge for me today, as I'm such a beginner in the field.
Mm, I see, I see. It means that you didn't have a time to build up the relationship with the horses, with the animals, but
Mhm.
how actually you can, I mean, build this relationship with horse?
Usually with time. It's very
Mm-hmm.
similar to courting or dating. It takes time and communication of you getting to know each other and understand, the subtleties of how you speak and what you think about. Horses are just like people. Some are very introverted, and so it's hard to understand what they need and what they're paying attention to. And then there are some that are very extroverted, and you can see everything that they're thinking as they're thinking it because their heads will move around and they'll shift their focus. So it's very much like that. Understanding people is like understanding horses. The more people you interact with, the more you understand how they think differently and the way that you can navigate between those differences.
Interesting. Thank you, Jennifer.
Of course.
The next question is archery sport popular in the US?
Archery as a sport, yes. We have an Olympic archery team here, but traditional and historical archery is not very popular. So I would say 95% of the archery in this country is all modern, compound bows, Olympic recurves. Maybe 4% or 5% of it is any aspect of traditional archery. But here in the United States, traditional archery is not what they call it in other countries. To people in the United States, shooting a traditional bow is a essentially an adaptation of a long bow that has a built-up pistol grip and a shelf cut into it, which would not be allowed at almost all traditional competitions that I've been to overseas. So that's the top 4% of archery in this country, and then of that, 1% maybe is historical archery, where you're shooting off of your hand, no shelf or rest for the bow, completely traditional materials, or the shape of the bow being completely traditional. So we're a very, very small population within a small population in this country, which is why it's so important for us to not only travel and then write about our experiences so that others can see them, but to host events that bring people to experience it for the first time and to grow that field. It's why Rob and I donate our time to organizations like the Mounted Archery Association and to USA Archery to try and be evangelists for this sport here in this country because it needs so much love and growth. There's so much opportunity to grow it. We were actually very honored that for our first international festival, we had over 500 people come to the event and over 80 competitors. That's a
Wow.
huge amount of people for traditional archery in this country. And so we hope that once COVID passes, we'll be able to host it again, but bigger and get more people interested.
Hope so. Great. Thank you, Jennifer. So it means that do you collaborate with international organizations? I mean, archery.
Yes. Yes, that's very important to us. It's traditional archery is so much about relationships.
Mhm.
So for us, the people that we met in Kyrgyzstan, the people that we meet in Turkey or in Hungary, we keep connections with them. And anytime we host an event, we send out emails and messages to all of them and say, this event we're hosting. Please come to our event, teach a demonstration, give a talk on your history and your culture, so that people can see it firsthand from the people with that history and with those experiences. So as we grow our international festival, it's important not just to be a competition, but to be educational, to
Mhm.
give people the opportunity to speak to their culture and increase cultural awareness here in our country. The world is so many different colors and
Mhm.
experiences, and we hope to bring those colors here.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. The next question is, your Nomad Games outfit is stunning. Who made
Thank
the
you.
design?
For my quiver or my outfit?
Outfit.
So the
Yeah.
outfit was actually very special. It was handmade for me by Rob's mother. She
Oh,
does all of his traditional dells and his pants. So we're lucky. It's so much a family experience here.
yes. It was really beautiful. It
Thank you.
very similar. I mean, it was very similar to Kyrgyz, I think, outfit. So we have the same ornaments, and it was really beautiful.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest compliment that we were paid when we were in Kyrgyzstan.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw the picture of our team. We were the two in historical garb, and the rest were dressed
Mm-hmm.
in American garb. So we came in and we expected that we would be not ignored, but that the focus would be on the Cowboys because that's what people expect from our country. But we had so many people who would come up to us and introduce themselves and ask us if we were from Russia or if we were from Hungary or if we were from Turkey. And they didn't believe us when we told them that we were American because of the way that we were dressed. So to know that, not only were we paying tribute to the history that we
Mm-hmm.
study, but that we were taken as part of those countries and that people thought we were from them is the biggest compliment that can be paid to us, I think.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. Oh, did you have an opportunity to exchange the skills, experience with other local teams or with other international teams?
Yes. So we arrived at the Nomad Games a day or two before most of the teams. We came early because we wanted to spend some time in Bishkek. It's not enough to travel to a country. I want to experience as much of it as we can. So we stayed in a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
small bed and breakfast in Bishkek and walked the streets and had dinner at a beautiful local restaurant, and it was amazing. So we arrived in Chopinata a couple days before most of the other competitors. And over the course of several days, as people would slowly come in, we realized that there were no targets set up for us to practice our archery. And we wanted to test our bows and make sure that they would shoot well in Kyrgyzstan in the climate as opposed to in Texas, which is very hot and very humid. So being in the mountains is very different. And we wanted to make sure our equipment would be okay. So we ended up calling our embassy, our representative from the embassy. He was Abai Ezeliov is his name, and he was wonderful for us. He was an amazing translator, and anytime we needed anything or had any questions, he was there for us the whole 2 weeks, which I can't thank him enough. So we called the embassy and we asked if it was possible to get archery targets or hay bales or anything that would allow us to shoot our bows. And so I have this beautiful memory of this day when people from the embassy came and brought us a stack of hay bales, just square hay bales that you would feed
Mm-hmm.
horses with. And so we picked these hay bales up and we dragged them through the complex of where we were staying, all of these little buildings of the archers. It was the archers, the eagle hunters, and the dog hunters were all in the same location for the 2 weeks. So we are dragging these archery bales through the complex down to the beach where Isikul was, which was just such a gorgeous view to walk out your door and see Isikul and be able to walk in the waters was wonderful. So we take these hay bales down to the beach and we pull out our bows and we start. I think there was an empty plastic bottle and we put that on a hay bale and we started shooting at it. So we're shooting our bows, and Rob and I and a couple of our team members, and we're asking each other questions and testing our gear. And then I look over my shoulder And there are 3 people standing there watching us from I don't know which country. They're just standing there. So we go back to shooting, we're doing what we're doing, and then we look over, and then there are 7 people. And then we turn back and we keep doing what we're doing. And then we turn around, and there are 15 or 16 people, all with their bows, looking at us like, can we join you? Can we do this? So the next thing you know, we have a whole beach full of archers from all over the world, from so many different countries, from Turkey, from Kyrgyzstan, from Russia, from China, all just enjoying an opportunity to pull their bows out and shoot together. And we made friends with them, and that's actually where we met the Turkish archery team, who we became very close with through the course of the whole competition. Everywhere we went, because Turkey and the US are very close in the alphabet, in most of the parade lines, we would be next to each other. So they recognized that Rob was doing what they were doing. We were shooting bows from the same bow maker that they use. And so we would trade gear and equipment, and the few of them who talked, Janset translated for us. She speaks beautiful English. And so we all became friends. And the biggest honor that was afforded to us in Kyrgyzstan was Janset's father, Sami Ganel, who I said is very well renowned. He gave Rob one of his archery thumb rings that he had made. So in historical archery, you use a thumb ring, traditionally made out of horn. So this is water buffalo horn that Rob made for me, that you use to pull the bowstring when you shoot. He gifted Rob one of the rings that he had made himself. And to this day, Rob has it on a piece of leather that he is tied to his quiver that he takes with him everywhere that he goes. And that was one of the more beautiful things, is that over the course of the 2 weeks, every time we would meet somebody from a different country and become friends, we would trade tokens. So I have beautiful pins from Iran, from Singapore, from Kyrgyzstan, from Turkey, and I keep them on my quiver, and I travel. Every time I travel and compete, I have them. And actually, I have a souvenir that I purchased in the valley, in the competitor village at the Nomad Games. It's the symbol of the Nomad Games that's pressed into leather, with a little tassel. And it's just a beautiful little ornament, but I keep it on my quiver with me everywhere that I go to remind me of where I've been and the beautiful people that I've been able to meet.
Wow. It's so wonderful. I love in sport. I mean, it unites people, and many people can make friends. And did you? I mean, do you keep in touch with them now?
Yes, constantly. Facebook is such a beautiful thing because it's funny. I started studying historical archery and I had, a few hundred people on my Facebook page. But over the last 3 years, it's gone over 4,500 people. Every day I look at Facebook and there's some person adding me who I've never met or heard of, but their profile picture is them riding a horse in traditional garb shooting a bow. And I'm like, oh, these are my people. This is my tribe of people from all over the world. So that's the best part. I mean, there are international archery forums. There's the Asiatic Traditional Archery Network, which is an amazing resource of academics who all come together. If somebody finds a historical book or a reference or a bow or an arrow from somewhere and they don't have information on it, they share it in one of these networks, and people from all over the world will jump in and share knowledge and resources. So it doesn't feel anymore like I'm an American. It feels like I'm part of an international family of people that I might not see every day, but I'm connected to them, and we share this love of archery and culture and cultural awareness and this ability to empower people to study and to love their cultures and to share them with the world. And by showing that interest in other cultures, it empowers them to be more open with them and to love what they're doing even more.
I love to use the word like global citizen in such
Yes.
cases.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Yes. Because that's it. We're not individual countries anymore. We're a world. We are global, and everything affects everyone now because of technology. So it's
Yes.
an amazing time to live in if you're at all interested in history and culture. It's wonderful.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for sharing these beautiful moments from World Nomad Games.
Absolutely.
Uh, and the next question, how many times do you need to get skillful in archery?
So it very much depends on the person because archery is so much, it's a martial discipline, which requires years of study. And some would say it's not a pursuit you ever really master. It's something that you will always learn new things. Your body changes over time. And so your archery technique changes as well. I'm, though I'm considered one of the better trained people in my country, in regards to people in the world and the global community, I'm still very new and still very inexperienced. So I consider myself a beginner, even though scores might say different here in my
Mhm.
country. So my partner, Rob, has been studying archery for 30 years, and his
Oh.
form is beautiful. He's started archery when he was very young, and he is still constantly learning because there aren't resources for historical archery here. I mean, there were no manuals in English on what thumb draw is and how to use it and what katra is when you turn the bow out of the way of the arrow so that it flies straight. These resources are still very new and not a lot of academic work has been done in English. So it's very difficult to learn when you have to study pictures and books and try and figure out by hand, by trial and error, what works and what doesn't. So if you study modern archery, the compound bow or the Olympic recurve, you can learn a lot quicker. Maybe in a few years, you can become very proficient. But without the right teachers and without that connection to the global community, it takes a lot longer, I think. I've been benefiting from all of the trial and error that Rob, my partner, has done over the years because he spent the time learning the hard way. So now our students and myself are able to learn a lot easier.
Mhm.
And because we've made connections with people like Murat Asveri, who is the leader of the traditional Turkish archery school, he's a friend of ours and he gives us advice. So my technique from 2019 when we went to Turkey for the Conquest Cup to today
Mhm.
has completely changed from what it was at the Nomad Games and before that, because I was just studying, a very small understanding, and now it's a lot bigger. So I'm hoping that maybe in another 10 or 15 years I might be good. But it's just about constant practice and discipline. Our teacher Enes in Turkey says that for every one
Mhm.
day that you don't practice your bow, it takes 3 days to get back to the point you were at when you stopped. So it takes so much effort to gain proficiency in the sport, but it's if you have discipline, it's worth it.
Mhm.
They say in the Ottoman school of archery, a
Yes.
student archer was required to pull their bow with no arrow, no anything, just pull their bow 200 times a day on each arm for something like 6 months before they were ever allowed to pick up an arrow. So it takes quite a while.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Jennifer. So, do you have a mentor?
I have many mentors. I have the benefit of having many mentors. Rob, predominantly my partner, is my closest mentor. I mean, I see him every day. Every time I pick up my bow, he's there next to me. And he has the most experience of anybody in our club in regards
Mhm.
to historical archery. So he is my greatest mentor. In learning horsework, Kent Battenfield of Central Texas Mounted Archery is my teacher. In regards to the historical element, the academic work, both Rob and I consider ourselves students of the traditional Turkish school, and like Dr. Murat Asveri. But it's really it's really just about constantly learning from everybody we meet. Every time we compete, we see something that somebody else has
Mhm.
done, and we learn from it. Lucas Novotny is one of the most well acclaimed horseback archers in our country. And we've had the pleasure of
Mhm.
being able to learn from him as well. And teachers like Holm Newman, who is one of the founders of horseback archery in our country. So it's all still very young here, but we have the benefit of some wonderful teachers.
Mhm. Cool. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I think it was our last question.
Ah,
Oh, thank you for the amazing session. It was it was a really fascinating and incredible session. I learned so
Good.
many new things about archery, about horses, and
Wonderful.
so many interesting things about you also. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Beautiful.
It was really
So
interesting today.
if any of your audience would like to reach out to us to have more conversations, to be friends, and to be part of this global community together, we have a
Mhm.
website, we have Facebook, and we have Instagram. You can find us, The Eastern Contingent. You can also find our horseback archery group, which is the Mounted
Mhm.
Archery Association of the Americas. And then, if you'd like to come to the United States to compete in historical archery, the Texas International Archery Festival. So please come be friends and shoot bows with us.
Mhm. Okay, Jennifer, you can send the accounts in via private chat, so I will type them in the comments. I will leave them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Jennifer. And also, just quick afterward. So in March we celebrated Women's History Month, and all our activities were dedicated to this special topic. And we celebrated the contributions of outstanding women and girls in different spheres and through various activities, panel sessions, live sessions. And I think today was the beautiful end of the observance of Women's History Month. And the big thanks to Jennifer. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I received the accounts. Yes. I will put them in the comments.
Perfect.
Wait, wait. Oh, I already did it. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. So please take care of yourself, stay healthy, have a good, great day and great evening. So bye bye,
Thank you all.
everyone. Thank you.